Good morning and welcome to Unusual Activity powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Thank you for joining us this Monday, the 26th of January, 2015. Lots happening around the world geopolitically, macroeconomically, macro indice wise, lots happening. Certainly in the New York, eyes are on a rather large blizzard that we think will impact markets as well in terms of activity, in terms of futures and distillates, of course. So, folks, let's jump into where we are on the futures. We have S&P 500 futures higher by 1.75 points, just under two handles higher at 20.45.50. We have crude oil higher by 28 cents at 45.86. Again, $45.85. Yesterday, certainly wasn't in trading, but yesterday evening, oil went down into the 44 handle. So that was very interesting. We'll see where oil begins to go this morning. We have gold lower by $6.20 at $1,286.50. It looks like that 1,300 level that we've been discussing is the one to watch here. We have the 10-year at 1.815. Again, right around that 1.8 area. We've been really hugging that for quite some time. The 30-year, folks, 2.384, well below that 2.5 level that we've been watching. And again, over 150 basis point difference than more than a year ago. The dollar continued strength at 94.783, euro at 1.1274. Certainly on the heels of the Greek elections. We'll get to that in a moment. And what it could mean for overall markets. So let's jump into where we were on Friday, just as a recap, get our get our bearings on. So we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average down. It was down 144 points at minus by 0.79%, excuse me. S&P 500 lower by 0.55%, lower by 11.33 points, and Nasdaq was the one that was higher on Friday, higher by 0.16%. At 47.57.88. If you take a look at where we were on the SPX the entire day, folks, rather volatile. Definitely in about a let's call it for most of the day, about a 10 handle range, a 10-point range on the S&P 500, and coming into towards the low of the day. On Friday. Again, we typically recently, we even considering we're out of that, obviously out of that summertime, but we have seen Fridays volume and activity dissipate towards the close there. So again, that's something that we want to continue to watch. Also today, we know that there's a blizzard warning for the New York area. Lots of conversation about that, but here's the quick and dirty here, folks. We may see some decreased volume or activity in the afternoon. The storm is supposed to hit midday, and the reason we're saying that is, we could see an impact on distillates, and we'll go into the specifics on that and get on gasoline, natural gas, and heating oil. because of the temperature drop and the winter weather. So enough of the winter weather. Let's get into specific news and what's happening across the world. Certainly in the Middle East, we're watching. This is on the heels of the Saudi king death. There's been discussion from the new leadership, if you will, indicating there's really no shift in perception of where oil should be. There's various conversations where oil will be headed next. Certainly, initially, and we'll get into this in a little bit. Initially, it's on the downside. So again, we're continuing to watch that. Certainly, also in Europe, we're seeing the ramifications or the possible ramifications of the new Syriza party in Greece. They won 36% there. Currently was at 149 seats. I believe they needed 50. So again, initial conversation is that they'll stay in the euro, but again, that particular dynamic, I think, will still continue in terms of rhetoric and what actually will happen with this new party in control. Certainly, one of the things that's in discussion is. Remember, Greece and Germany have had an interesting history over the last 60, 70 years, so that's coming into play a little bit. So a lot of very interesting geopolitical dynamics that are taking place there, and that's something that we're watching rather closely as it's impacting markets and the market's reaction to it. So again, the other one of the other pieces that we're monitoring this morning is the Russian situation with some Ukrainian violence, and what will the West's response be to Russia? And this is something that's really critical here, folks. Inside Russia, Putin's approval rating is at an all-time high, and that's one of those really interesting dynamics that we really need to remember. So it's certainly oil is putting a lot of pressure on Russia. We're seeing a considerable pressure on the ruble. We talked about this on Friday. We're back to one-year lows, and it's really what will the West do with Russia? And as we said before, how is Russia positioning itself in 2015? We have here themes of 2015 positioning itself with the relationship with specifically China. If they're not going to get any, forgive the layman expression, but if they're not going to get any play from the West, it has to position itself with other countries, and China fits the bill rather nicely. So again, really same themes that we're seeing day in and day out. And as long as we're going to see these themes continue, we're going to see a considerable amount of volatility, especially in the macro indices. Wilbur Ross commenting this morning, quote unquote, feeling fairly good about the Greek election. This is with the Tsipras victory. So again, keeping an eye on that. One of the things we want to take a look at is excuse me, economic news coming out this morning in the U.S. We have Baltic Dry Index at 703 points, falls 2.4%. So again, we had just a 2-day recovery, if you will, in the Baltic Dry Index again, continuing its decline here. PMI flash at 9:45 in the morning, and Dallas Fed manufacturing survey at 10:30. So what we'd like to do is jump into the technicals, and then we'll get into the overnight markets and various indicators. So Milt, let's jump into the technicals this morning. Certainly, volatility doesn't seem like it's going to end anytime soon, as far as what we're seeing. Milton, what's your thought on that? What's on your mind this morning?
Well, clearly the volatility is not going to end. The month of January has been completely based on volatility and large vicious moves to the up and downside, and even intraday moves. Today, I think within the next day, maybe 2 or 3 days, you may see a large decrease in volatility due to the huge snowstorm that is coming up to the East Coast. Many even talking the fact, are the bond markets and New York Stock Exchange going to be open tomorrow? No one really knows exactly, so we'll see what happens overnight into tomorrow morning. Let me just do a quick rundown on the on some technicals. The ES, we're looking at initial move to the upside resistance of 2050, with the main level resistance around 2061 to 2063. We are looking at downside support at 2025, and keep in mind that overnight session we hit a low of 2030s, and now we're currently at 2043.75. So we had some volatility coming in from overnight into this morning in regards to the Greek elections and some Ukraine news over the weekend. We'll see what happens during the day this morning. We'll see what happens during the day with this storm coming and volatility. It should be an interesting day. We have the Fed this week, I believe, right, George?
Yes.
We have the Fed this week, so that could also add volatility to the markets. We'll see what happens on that side as well. It's going to be one of those days where, you just have to let it do what it needs to do, and let the volatility is going to be there, but should, be less and less with the next day or so. Let's just jump into oil next. Oil had a rally this morning on some OPEC comments that they think it could hit $200 a barrel down the road. That gave it a small little spike this morning from 45 to about 46. Currently selling off right now, almost back to the levels pre those OPEC comments. Oil overnight hit the low 44s. The number we're watching is at 44.20 to the downside. If that number is broken, could see a extended downtrend and could possibly see a new low, maybe in the high 30s, even low 40s, high 30s. So we're keeping an eye on oil, keeping an eye on the volume, on the volatility as well, and trying to get an indication this morning on what exactly the feel is on oil. Overnight, it was selling off just like the markets were. They reversed this morning, just like the markets, and we'll see what happens throughout the day. Gold right now trading at 1284.60. It's in a tradable range right now from 1250 to 1300. So we'll see if it can base around here and extend the upward move. But as of now, it's trading back into the lower range, broke back below 1300. 1250 to the downside. We have 1300 to the upside. We have volume coming into gold, and we're watching this as a strength indicator throughout the day. Currencies, overnight we had the euro breaking down and yet again reversed into this morning. We'll see what the activity is today, but as of now, the euro is trading basically flat to up minuscule. U.S. dollar is basically at flat to a little lower, so we're keeping an eye on currencies. The dollar is breaking to basically new highs every day. We're going to see the reaction to Greece news today, I believe. The initial reaction is a calming sense. Everything is basically flat. We will see what happens throughout the day and into tomorrow. But as of now, volume is to the low side. Markets are basically flat. We have a very crazy earnings week this week with a lot of big top names. We have the Fed on Wednesday. We have this blizzard storm on the Northeast later today into tomorrow and Wednesday morning. So you have a lot going on to keep in mind. That volatility may not be exactly there, but you're going to have lots of volatile moves in certain names, especially the names that with earnings and anything that will be affected with the FOMC meeting on Wednesday. George?
Thank you, Milton. So there you have it, folks. Volatility to continue. And more importantly, and this is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, and this is this notion of, as long as there's a difference of opinion, volatility will continue. As long as, for example, in oil, as long as there's traders coming out or analysts coming out saying, hey, this may be a bottom in oil, and at the same time you have OPEC ministers basically saying, hey, you know what, demand isn't where it needs to be, or supply is you know, we have a glut of oil. We're going to have volatility there, folks. So when you have that nice, I call it, you know, nice, you want that nice difference of opinion. It's a little boring when everybody feels it should be going one way or another. But when you have that nice difference of opinion, you have a consistent base of volatility, and that's something that we want to keep an eye on rather closely. Let's get back into the presentation here, folks. We'll take a look at overnight markets first. We have in Asia, Nikkei lower by 0.25%, Hang Seng higher by 0.24%, and the Shanghai higher by 0.94%. In Europe, we're higher or flat across the board here. We have FTSE higher by 0.02%, DAX in Germany higher by 0.99%, IBEX in Spain higher by 0.97%, CAC in Paris higher by 0.42%. So clearly, as Milton said, a little bit of a calming with respect to what could happen after these Greek elections. You know, a lot of speculation, a lot of rhetoric, what may happen with the new party in Greece, but again, a little bit of a calming tone to the Greek elections, after the Greek election. So let's jump into. We always talk about oil. We wanted to bring this up again. These are ETFs, ETNs that we monitor on a daily basis. We recommend, at the very least, just putting them up on a watch list, if you will, and see how these work in conjunction with when you're watching the volatility in oil. What's the correlation here, folks? When we talk about correlation, we talk about what's the importance of, if oil goes up 1%, how does a particular ETF go up, or ETN, and does it also go up percent, or is it, you know, if the oil goes up 1% and the ETF goes up by 0.98, you know, so you have the correlation isn't exactly 1, so you have that little bit of a difference there. What's the underlying securities, oil names, of what's that correlation in the oil names? Is it inversely correlated, and so forth? So that's something that's really fascinating to take a look at, and that's something we always take a look at. We always monitor on a daily basis, and as always, as oil maintains its lower price, it's impacting CPI and PPI data here, folks. And if the Fed and other central bankers are looking for a 2% inflation, oil isn't giving it to them. It's not providing a more of a reason for higher inflation. So again, that's something to keep in mind. Again, just to give a little bit more color, Secretary Lew on Friday said doesn't expect U.S. crude production to decline, so that's something critical. One of the main things that's been discussed is the fact that what will happen to the shale drillers. Remember, they typically function a little bit faster when there's an opportunity. They tend to get it to production faster, and they're able to get it out into the market faster, and that well basically is exasperated, is dried out pretty quickly. So again, they move rather quick on the shale driller side. So again, that's something we keep in mind. Let's jump into commodities, energy, raw materials. Again, crude oil lower by 14 cents now. We're on the downside here. at $45.44. Gasoline lower by 0.0124 at 1.3355. The upside here on the gasoline, folks, it's just a little bit more money to the consumer in the wallet. Plainly said here, folks, and that's something that we. Not much can be said on that. If you're literally paying half what you were paying in 3 months ago, that's going to have an impact on the consumer wallet. Natural gas lower by 0.092 at 2.893. So we're still below that $3 mark. Keeping an eye on this. We'll see what this winter storm brings. Heating oil higher by 0.0106 at 1.6573. Gold lower by $8.90 at $1,283.80. Silver still above that $18 mark, lower by 19.5 cents at $18.11. Platinum lower by $12.90 at $1,256.50. Cocoa lower again this morning by $3 at $27.52. Let's get into the Treasury yields this morning. As we've been discussing, the real concentration here is the proverbial yield curve and its impact, specifically on how central bankers monitor this. And absolutely no doubt they monitor this. And although it hasn't really been discussed as of late, it's certainly on the focus. Absolutely. It's 5-year. We have a 1.336, considerable difference than we were even a month ago, at right around that 1.662 level. We have the 10-year at 1.810 and the 30-year at 2.378. Folks, we are well below where we were a month ago. Even if you take a look at the yield curve, almost it's literally almost parallel, if you will, to where we were about a month ago, and about a year ago we are much flatter than we were a year ago, and that's something no doubt we are taking a look at rather seriously here, folks. So also, so let's jump into specific securities that we are seeing circulate across desks this morning. We wanted to just touch on this. The NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, plans to operate on a regular schedule. Spokesman said again. We'll see what the storm delivers today into tomorrow and into Wednesday. Again, should be a interesting few days here. But we'll be here and reporting and dishing out news as always. So Tesla Motors plan to roll out dual motor version of Model S in China. Expects Model X SUV to be released in China early 2016. We have Tesla this morning. Indicating a $201.93 this morning. Few comments on Apple this morning. We'll get into that in just a moment. PFE Pfizer looks for other acquisition targets after Teva Pharmaceutical rejection. So this is something that's we're keeping an eye on. Teva Pharmaceutical at $58.65, and PFE currently at $32.50 this morning on Pfizer. We'll get into Apple news. So there's a few things coming out on Apple. We'll get the price on this morning. Apple trading at $113.80 this morning. Apple's said to be selling more iPhones in China than in the U.S. Apple, again, upcoming results all about guidance, and company could deliver big, according to Piper Jeffries. This is just some around social media chatter, if you will. And also, we had another comment on Apple from Wells Fargo. Maintains neutral outlook on Apple. Says market expectations too high. Folks, we like this when you get a difference of opinion on particular stocks. It makes for a little bit more interesting market. It's not one-way opinions, whether it's negative or positive. It's good to have this I don't want to say wide spectrum opinion of Apple. Certainly an amazingly successful organization, but again, great to have this opinion on where expectations are and where Apple will go from here. Let's see, let's take a look at LACO. Lakes Entertainment. We have currently this morning at $8 even indication. Again, we're just about 5 minutes away from the open. Higher, it's higher 15% in pre-market. So Lakes Entertainment, Golden Gaming to merge. Also, let's take a look at Mattel at $24.91 this morning. Q4 preliminary earnings per share, 44 cents versus the 91 cents expected. The CEO and chairman steps down from position. Interesting. We'll see what they say. Perhaps the U.S. dollar had something to do with that. Again, we'll keep an eye on that. CVM currently indicating at 68 cents this morning. Receives regulatory clearance to expand its phase 3 head and neck cancer trial into Romania. So that's what we have on specific news, if you will. So let's get into insider transactions this morning. RDI, we have nothing indicating yet in Reading International. We had a director purchase, $72,000 worth. AGRX, we have Agile Therapeutics, not indicating anything yet. Finished the day on Friday at $7.54. Almost a $5 million purchase from a 10% owner in AGRX. Again, we're just minutes away from the New York Open. PPR, Voya Prime, we have $140,000 purchase here. Finished the day at $5.29 on Friday. We have AFAM. We have Almost Family. We have a $600,000 purchase. Finished the day on Friday at $31.66. CAPR. We have a $3 million purchase from Capricorn Therapeutics. We have quite a few on CAPR on Friday as well, so a little bit of a follow through here. Closed the day on Friday at $4.05. URI, United Rentals, $200,000 purchase. We have currently indicating at $88.43 this morning. And one more, we have HZPN, Horizon Pharma. We have about a $60,000 purchase, and that was overnight into this morning, and that's currently at $16.60. So a little bit of a tick up this morning in preparing for the market. So, folks, let's take a check on where we are in preparing. We're just literally about a minute away from the markets this morning, from the open. We have futures, let's call it flat, a slight downtick this just now here at 2043.75. Interesting levels to watch here, folks. The crude oil lower by $17 at $45. Lower by 19 cents at $45.39. We have gold at $1,284 and the 10-year at 1.808, really hugging that 1.8 mark for quite some time. So, folks, thank you for joining us this morning on Unusual Activity, powered by FinancialJuice.com. This has been George Avedon and Milton Romanides. We wish you a great day. If you're in the storm track, we wish you a safe day. safe getting home and to work. Enjoy the day, and wish you good hunting. Thank you for joining.